The unreliable narrator is something that you might have learned about in English class. We use this term when stories are told from the perspective of a person who is admittedly dishonest, unstable, or hyperbolic in the way that they view the world. This creates a space between the story being told and the person telling it, where the reader must use their own interpretation to see a clear picture of what's going on, because the narrator is untrustworthy to tell it accurately. However, the unreliable narrator's character is pivotal to understanding the story. The word choice, actions, and inner life of the unreliable narrator are carefully chosen to reveal what type of person they are, in order for the reader to be able to understand who this narrator is and how they are unreliable. Their character and perspective has to be made very clear. If the narrator is untrustworthy to tell the story accurately, the reader has to have a clear picture of where they can trust the narrator to be inaccurate. Many classic works of literature, like The Catcher in the Rye, Flowers for Algernon, and A Clockwork Orange, are told from the perspective of an unreliable narrator. But those are full novels that have lengthy plots and space for development. What if you had 3 minutes to get inside the head of a character, reveal who they are to the listener, and bring them through an arc of character development while furthering the plot and rhyming each line? The stakes get a little higher. This is why songs with unreliable narrators are so difficult to write and can be so absolutely masterful when written well. The first time I realized the skill this songwriting takes is when I heard Helena by Nickel Creek. Helena is a song from the perspective of a guy who cheats on his girlfriend with a woman named Helena. In a clip of the band talking about writing this song that has been irritatedly removed from the internet, Chris Thile discusses how songwriting is a way to explore parts of his own psyche by entering into situations he would never enter into as himself. In the song, he tried to get inside of the head of the type of person who would cheat on their girlfriend, and all the ways they would act and think in that situation. Through subtle dialogue in the lyrics and a breaking point in the end, the song masterfully reveals the character of the cheater in a way that makes the situation abundantly clear. The narrator is the obvious villain of the story. Helena, don't walk away before you give me back my heart. If it were mine, it would be yours to take. I'm sorry I let down my guard. Oh, Helena, you look so sweet. I should have seen while I was playing for fun, you were playing for keeps. He starts off the song by pleading with Helena and immediately putting himself into the role of victim. He expresses that he was blindsided by her sincerity. He apologizes for letting down his guard, which is basically the equivalent of saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. You win, I lose. Is there some way you can leave me in your depths, oh my girl, and I can live to die another day? On that day, I won't forget you, Helena. In this stanza, he acts like he's giving up to make her more sympathetic to his situation and to convince her to leave him in her debts, aka he will owe her if only she doesn't tell his girlfriend. He ends the stanza in an attempt to make her feel special and loved by him, giving her empty ultimatum promises. On that day, I won't forget you, Helena. As the song continues, Thile reveals more and more of who this character is. Helena, don't walk away. Did you hear one word I said? Oh well, I never really liked us anyway. And I forgot her. I'll forget you, Helena. The turn begins in the stanza when Helena doesn't act as he wanted her to. The first true color shows when he breaks his loving gaze and says, oh well, I never really liked us anyway, and I forgot her, I'll forget you. You're not that sweet, and neither is she. Go ahead and tell her anything you want, because Helena, guys like me never sleep alone at night. I don't need your sympathy, because I'll always be just fine. Guys like me never sleep alone at night is a brilliant moment that so loudly yet so simply is the forte of the narrator's character arc. He starts the song making empty promises and playing the victim. And when it doesn't go his way, he ends the song bitter, vengeful, and still holding on to his pride. Every subtle lyrical decision helps to reveal this character to the listener, making us well aware of who he is in the story. Now let's talk about how Taylor Swift does this just as brilliantly. In Betty, the song is written from the perspective of a 17-year-old boy named James, making it the only time Taylor has truly stepped out of herself when telling a story, and she is damn incredible at it. Every lyrical decision Taylor Swift makes so clearly paints the picture of how this boy thinks and how he perceives his role in the situation. Betty, I won't make assumptions about why you switch your homeroom, but I think it's 'cause of me. Betty, one time I was riding on my skateboard when I passed your house. It's like I couldn't breathe. An interesting thing to note right off the bat is how stream of consciousness this entire song is. James isn't reveling in memories or making poignant observations about who he is and who Betty is. He's basically just giving a run-on sentence of observations and leading them into his conclusions. You heard the rumors from Inez. You can't believe a word she says most times, but this time it was true. The worst thing that I ever did was what I did to you. This entire song is about James regretting his decision to cheat on Betty and not knowing how to fix it. However, even in that regret, there's a significant lack of agency and a clear depiction of how James still isn't owning up to his mistakes. In the chorus, he muses about how she would react rather than explaining the regret he feels. But if I just showed up at your party, would you have me? Would you want me? Would you tell me to go fuck myself or lead me to the garden? In the garden, would you trust me if I told you it was just a summer thing? I'm only 17. I don't know anything, but I know I miss you. The most masterful revelation of James' character is in this line. Would you trust me if I told you it was just a summer thing? I'm only 17. I don't know anything, but I know I miss you. James wonders if Betty would forgive him if he explained to her that this affair was just a summer thing, minimizing its significance and demonstrating his lack of real regret and understanding. With I'm only 17, I don't know anything, he further places himself out of the range to confess anything he knowingly did wrong, instead blaming it on his age and his ignorance. However, in Cardigan, which is from the perspective of Betty, she constantly says, when you are young they assume you know nothing, but I knew you, immediately following rich and wise observations about herself, James, and the human condition. The fact that James blames his mistakes on not knowing anything because of his age further reveals the character of a 17-year-old boy with a very limited grasp of his actions and their effect. Betty, I know where it all went wrong. Your favorite song was playing from the far side of the gym. I was nowhere to be found. I hate the crowds. You know that. Plus, I saw you dance with him. I hate the crowds. You know that. Is one of my favorite lines of the song because it's such a damn boy thing to say. Throughout the song, James uses the language of I know or I want instead of the language of feeling, observing, or understanding, revealing his two-dimensional view of the world that often stops short of empathy or intuition. I was walking home on broken cobblestones, just thinking of you, when she pulled up like a figment of my worst intentions. She said, James, get in, let's drive. Those days turned into nights, slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long. James sets up the situation in which he cheated by saying what the other girl, Inez, did, and tries to lessen his role by saying that he dreamt of Betty all summer long. Betty, I'm here on your doorstep, and I planned it out for weeks now, but it's finally sinking in. Betty, right now is the last time I can dream about what happens when you see my face again. The only thing I want to do is make it up to you. Yeah, I showed up at your party. Will you have me? Will you love me? Will you kiss me on the porch in front of all your stupid friends? If you kiss me, will it be just like I dreamed it? Will it patch your broken wings? I'm only 17. I don't know anything, but I know I miss you. James remembers things without understanding them, wants someone without knowing what his role is to them, and knows and does not know only at the most opportune times. Taylor Swift does not vilify James as the bad guy in this situation, but uses the song to so eloquently explain how boys like James view these situations. The emotions in this song are a desire for something he doesn't understand and a regret for an action he still won't own up to. In Cardigan and August, Betty and Inez explain their love for James and their situations with him with a third eye. Their songs are painted with colorful metaphor, deep emotion, and memories that end in profound understanding of themselves, James, and the situation as a whole. In Cardigan, Betty paints the unspoken truth through observations of seen and unseen things. A friend to all is a friend to none. Chase two girls, lose the one. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. But I knew you. Playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends. I knew you, your heartbeat on the high line once in 20 lifetimes. I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss. I knew you'd haunt all of my what ifs. The smell of smoke would hang around this long, 'cause I knew everything when I was young. I knew I'd curse you for the longest time, chasing shadows in the grocery line. I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired, and you'd be standing in my front porch light. I knew you'd come back to me. In Cardigan, Betty uses the language of I know, only when she backs it up by poignant observations about James herself and the world around her. Whereas James in Betty uses the language of I know about what he wants and who he wants himself to be in the situation, which is the authority on his own mistake and the authority on the reaction of others. In August, even in the whirlwind of emotion and nostalgia, Inez constantly reaffirms the reality of the situation and her role in it. August slipped away into a moment of time because it was never mine. August slipped away like a bottle of wine because you were never mine. Will you call when I'm back at school? I remember thinking I had you. Back when we were still changing for the better, wanting was enough. For me, it was enough. To live for the hope of it all. Cancel plans just in case you call and say meet me behind the mall. So much for summer love and saying us. 'cause you weren't mine to lose. Inez constantly builds and reaffirms her understanding of the situation, taking emotion, events, and context into consideration to get to this conclusion. James was never hers, and she knew it was only a summer thing, but she also knew that she was living for the hope that it wasn't. The space between the narrator and the story gives listeners the chance to have the same third eye Betty and Inez have. We are not just being fed an objective, unseasoned series of events. We are given the ability to use our brains to understand a polyhedra of story perspectives. What really happened, why it happened based on the characters of the narrators telling it, and their personalities and agency to the situation. God, songwriting is so fucking cool. Another notable example of the split between the narrator and the situation is Cherry Wine by Hozier. In this song, he tells the story of an abusive relationship from the perspective of someone who romanticizes their malicious lover. Throughout the song, he contradicts himself by using soft and loving language to explain violent and painful events. Hot and fast and angry as she can be, I walk my days on a wire. It looks ugly, but it's clean. Oh mama, don't fuss over me. He asks people not to worry about him because he doesn't see the relationship as problematic, although he clearly depicts a woman who hurts him physically and emotionally at unpredictable times. And it's worth it, it's divine, I have this some of the time. The way she tells me I'm hers and she is mine, open hand or closed fist would be fine. The blood is rare and sweet as cherry wine. It's clear that the narrator of the song has a warped view of this relationship, but adding our sympathy for a victim with this psychological damage brings a more powerful emotion to the story than if it were just a third-person narrative of the same relationship or a first-person narrative where the narrator was fully aware of the abuse. Unreliable narrators like this are not very common in music these days, especially pop music, because the unreliable narrator given to a bad listener is dangerous. Imagine the effect of Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People if the entire thing was written first person from the perspective of the school shooter. It already caused enough frenzy with its subject matter, but it clearly sets the song up to be a story narrated by someone who isn't the singer, by starting with third person. Robert's got a quick hand, he'll look around the room, he won't tell you his plan, he's got a rolled cigarette hanging out his mouth, he's a cowboy kid. He found a 6-shooter gun in his dad's closet with a box of fun things. And I don't even know what, but he's coming for you. Yeah, he's coming for you. The rest of the song is from Robert, the school shooter's perspective. But we are now clearly cued into the fact that it's a story disconnected from the singer's life and identity. The danger of the unreliable narrator is that exactly. People are dumb. And they actually don't listen to songs, especially pop songs. So if the song is not clearly from a different perspective than the singer by being told in third person, listeners can often view the song as a singer's personal opinions about an issue, instead of the song being an avenue to understanding the truth about an issue by approaching it from a different perspective. Take Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. I literally had someone talk to me about how sad and depraved it was that the #1 song in America was about seducing someone's dad. Yep. That is how some people chose to listen to Bad Guy. Ignoring the context, ignoring nuance, ignoring the artistry of creating a narrator's character. Many people left Bad Guy proclaiming Billie Eilish's immorality. In a Rolling Stone interview, she literally said the words,
"So you're a tough guy. You gotta tell everyone that you're tough. You're this and you're this and you're this and you're this. Okay, if you're gonna be that, then I'm gonna be all types of fake too. So then, great, I'm the bad type. I'm the make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type," which I'm not that. But if you can be fake with everyone and try to prove that you are something that you're not, then I can do it too.
The song is literally a commentary about bad boys and inauthentically cool people, and a tongue-in-cheek response that gives them a taste of their own medicine. These songs are not spoon-feeding us true opinions in objective situations. They are introducing us to a character and giving us an opportunity to make our own mind up about who they are and what they're talking about. One of the primary reasons people write songs is to process their emotions and experiences and deconstruct and clarify what's going on in their head. People often write songs in a frenzy of emotion, or when they don't know the whole story, or they fixate on a minor detail. So really, songs are the medium in which the narrator is the most unreliable. Songs are almost always putting on a character by using hyperbole about one emotion, telling only part of the story, and keeping it vague to make the song relatable. Even the most honest songs have unreliable narrators. Think about Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, where he tries to convince the audience that he wasn't in the wrong for his fabled relationship with a, quote, crazy groupie, and that the kid he might have fathered is not his son. If that song was written from Billie Jean or a third person's perspective, it would be a totally different story. Or a Hotline Bling, where Drake shames an ex-lover for wearing less and going out more, which is not an objectively bad thing to do at all, and you come to realize that Drake is actually just salty and projecting his own bitterness throughout the song. But don't we all, Drake? Don't we all? Songs, intentionally or unintentionally, have unreliable narrators, because we, as humans, are unreliable narrators. We all only have part of the story and are filtering it through our gut reactions, pain, expectations, and emotions. That's the beautiful thing about songs. You meet a character at multiple points of the story of their experiences and development, or if we're lucky, we get to be introduced to an entirely new character that helps us understand the artist's character in real life even more. James might not know much. I mean, he's only 17. But Taylor Swift knows more than ever before about how to tell a brilliantly composed, intricately woven, damn good story. Listeners, actually listen to the music you're listening to. And songwriters, keep your narrators unreliable.